because I noticed that you obviously had a conversation with Bilzerian the other day. Look, he's got an unbelievable reach, which is, to his credit, very big. I also think that he uses language, much like Jake Shields does and a handful of others, that are following the Fuentes school of thought, which is this is a Jew problem, and if we just dealt with the Jews, that we would solve this problem. No, it is an elite Jewish problem. And that is why this has always been a class war. It always will be. And until we are very clear in our language that the Zionist elite Jews are why we have this problem, the Christian Zionists, particularly in the South and in the heartland, they are the flock that is being drawn in by the Hagees and the Austins and the Robertsons of the world. And that's why Tucker Carlson is so dangerous right now, because he's calling that out in such a profound way, to his credit, putting himself in harm's way, just like Candace has put herself in harm's way by saying what needs to be said as far as this is concerned. But in the end, as stereotypical as it may be, you put it all the way at the top. You get all the way to the top, and you get to a elite of elite class of Zionist billionaire oligarchs, led by Ellison, continually funded by, you've got Zuckerberg, you've got Gates, who may be the most dangerous billionaire of them all, not just because he's been to Pedo Island, but because the guy's buying up as much land as he could get his hands on, and no one does a thing like that unless they're trying to control the food supply. And you also have people like Musk, who, again, for him, it's all about his career and his business and his money. So initially, what people tend to forget, even though he's been up, Milikowski's behind for so long, is that when this first started, he was against what was going on. He was in favor of Palestinian liberation, but he got his mind right real quick. And so as a result, we are recognizing this cabal of power that is concentrated in the hands of a select few Jewish billionaires who have their little clandestine operations all over the country. Ben Shapiro is a traitor to America as far as I'm concerned. He should be treated as such.
Absolutely. You sent him to Israel.
And so why are we not being concise about our language? If Bilzerian and Shields and anybody else is concerned about whether or not we unwrap this relationship, we can, but we have to be crystal clear that there are millions of anti-Zionist Jews in this country who want no part of this shit. And Jen is one of the most active voice. That's Jen. She's doing production tonight. So she is, without question, been leading that effort. And if we ever had a chance to speak with Bilzerian or Shields or anybody in that class, I would just tell them, this is why they are still holding on to power. When you say it's a Jew problem, you give all the power back to the Zionists. They love it when you say that shit. When you do not identify it as an elitist problem, as an elite Jewish problem, if you do it that way, then they have nowhere to go, because then they're really stuck. What are they going to say? That we're worth, Larry Ellison is worth, what, $300 billion? He's about to buy HBO, CNN, and Warner Brothers. He's got CBS and he's got TikTok. You think he's going to stop? He'll get them all. He'll be just like Rupert Murdoch. He's not going to slow down. Trump is open for business, pure and simple. So if somebody else opens up their doors and they're like, hey, you got 40 billion for me too? Yeah, of course. That is, without having a proper balance, you now have a free-for-all. And now you're allowing these guys to take over. So if we want to stop them, we can. But we have to rally this country, and that involves displaying the difference between Zionists and anti-Zionists. And I think the language is very imperative that we distinguish between the two. I don't hear it from them. I don't want to assume that they're just anti-Jew. Whatever the case is, I think if we are going to unite as many people as we need in order to break this stranglehold, it's going to require a different nuanced language in terms of how we go after them. If we do that, then I think that the Zionist billionaires are sitting ducks as far as I'm concerned. That's my thought.
Yeah, I think there has been this creation of this meme culture that is just anti-Jew. And you see people making fun of just regular Jews walking down the street. And people will call me an anti-Semite all the time. It's whatever. It's a part of the game. You talk about Israel, you're going to be called an anti-Semite. But I have defended my position on this, that I don't just hate Jews. I have Jewish friends in the community that I'm close with, that I talk to, that I've worked with, that are doing great work against what's going on. And it's not just like every Jew out there is a bad person. I disagree with the Talmud, sure, of course. But there's Jews who are contributing to this, who don't like what's going on. And actually, the Jews at the top, the elitist Jew culture, the elitist Jew class, they're the ones who are breeding this anti-Semitism, the real anti-Semitism, because they're pissing everybody off and making all these people create almost like a culture war against just regular Jews. So I don't hate all Jews. I hate the Jewish elite that is buying other people and controlling these corporations and controlling our government. It is an elitist problem. It is an oligarchy in our country. I don't think Elon Musk is a Jew, but people like him, or people who can be bought out by the Jews, the elitist Jews, those are people who are the problem. So we do need to be concise and clear with our verbiage and how we're speaking about them, because again, we shouldn't be going after the common folk. We shouldn't be going after our neighbors. We should be going after the people at the top and give them the pressure.
I do think that if we can get, look, it's not easy. Trust me. I see it all the time. I hear all the commentary. I was listening to something earlier with Francesca Fiorentini and a couple of other people. And I'm just thinking, all right, are they getting it yet? Are they getting it yet? And my attitude is, no, they're not getting it. They're still not getting it. They still don't understand that when somebody's on your side, they're on your side because this is the issue of our time. With all due respect, if we do not deal with this unholy alliance right now, it is the end of the United States of America as you know it, because they will drag us to hell with them. They're already doing it. Netanyahu is, of all the world leaders, the first person I think of who's most likely to drop a nuclear weapon if they get back into a war. Yeah. He's the most dangerous man alive as far as I'm concerned. So if we are going to allow them to continue to do what they're doing, it is our asses that are going with them. And so when I hear people say, oh, I don't like Tucker Carlson, I don't like Candace Owens, I'm like, you are why we can't have nice things. I have big disagreements with Tucker Carlson and with Candace Owens, and I will stand side by side with them on the front lines and risk getting myself killed because they're willing to do the same thing to save this country. They understand what's going on here. They understand that if we don't sever this relationship, the United States of America will become a thing of the past in so many ways. You think our economic problems are bad now? You just wait until the dollar gets devalued because of the concentration of power amongst BRICS, because that's what's going to happen. And if we can untie this relationship, we can make it America first, but we can also make it so that we can actually do business with countries around the world again, so that our dollar and our country as a whole still holds value. So many of these other nations around the world are trying to figure out how the hell do we stop doing business with the United States. That should scare the ever-living shit out of everybody, because the only way that's going to be prevented is if we excommunicate this relationship with Israel. If we do that, then we might have a chance. But if we don't, we sure as hell are going there. That's where we're going. And that's my fear, which is why, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, comfort is a privilege. It is not a right. You do not have the right to be comfortable. And especially if the overwhelming majority of people that live in this country are living moment to moment, you do not have the right to be comfortable. And I will see to it that you're not. So how do we, in conclusion, continue to foster these relationships as needed and continue to build them? I believe that more people need to be coming to Washington, D.C. and marching on the Capitol. I think more people need to be connecting there, because that's where all these decisions are made. And there's one thing I'm sure you've learned since you've been marching around the 2-mile perimeter of the U.S. Capitol. These federally elected representatives, they don't like to be bothered. They don't want to be inconvenienced. You're just a couple of commoners. Get out of my way. What are they going to do when 10 or 20,000 people are there every single day? They're going to have a heart attack. So how do we get everyone to the Capitol? To me, that I think is a huge part of our future in terms of how we get some type of an influential power vacuum within DC. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I live in DC. I go to a lot of protests that happen because I'm plugged into the activism community. I know a lot of people that will come from out of state to protest. Anthony and my friend Josie being some of those people, they'll come here from multiple states away and protest. And I would love to see more people at the Capitol. You know, sometimes I'll go and there's only 5 of us. Sometimes I go and there's 50. So I would love to see more Americans getting involved and actually coming to the Capitol. You know, I think protests in maybe like Detroit, Michigan, sure, is it going to do something? Maybe, but it's going to be much more impactful if those people make the trip over here to DC and actually start pestering the people who are causing the problems. Because, like you said, they hate to see us in their offices. They hate to see us going into the halls of the Capitol and bothering them and putting cameras in their face. They don't like that. So if we actually got more people, if you want to, if you think protesting is going to work, this is where protesting is going to work at the Capitol. So yes, I would love to see more people come here. Maybe that's something I need to organize myself because I do live here. But as you said earlier, yes, they're going to drag us down to hell with them because they are using us to radicalize a bunch of people against us. Those bombs being dropped on Gaza, those bombs have the USA written on it. It doesn't have Israel written on it. It has USA, manufactured in America. Those bombs are supplied by us. We're radicalizing people because of our support for Israel. And we're radicalizing a bunch of other countries. A bunch of countries are not just pissed at Israel, but they're pissed off at America too. So we need to, the issue is, if you look at people in Gaza, they're looking at the Israelis bombing them, but they're pissed off at America too, right? Because we're bombing them. All these other countries are pissed off at us. So if we don't get our politicians in line, we're going to separate ourselves from the world market. We're going to piss off a bunch more countries like we did in Iraq, and that's going to radicalize other countries and other people. You know, you go in there and you bomb a family's home and you leave the son behind. He's going to turn into a terrorist that's going to hate America next.
Jen likes to say, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. And I think that that's what's been lost on a lot of people for a long time. I will say that in terms of the people that really need to be in DC, I believe a lot of veterans and current active members, I don't know how much they can get away with, probably not much. But I do believe that the other factor in DC in particular is the cost. So if there was even something like a barracks where people could come in, they could rotate out when they need to, have a place that they can stay. So that way they don't have to be paying the absurd prices for, let's say, a hotel in DC proper or Northern Virginia or Southern Maryland. If they had that option, with all due respect, I've been to the 8th and 9th Ward. It's not very safe. I would want to make sure that if people are going to come there and are going to want to make an impact, there has to be a plan to how to properly deal with the cost factor of coming to DC. If that is figured out, then that's what's going to make the difference. People will more, I guarantee you, brother, there will be thousands of people that will venture to the nation's capital if they just knew how they were going to deal with overnight stay. If that's something that can be dealt with in a very equitable way, you won't know what you will have more than you know what to do with in terms of people that will be coming to the city to make it known that the way our government is run is no longer going to be tolerated.